The faint buzz from her AirPods case was what caught my attention first, an almost imperceptible hum against the marble countertop. It was one of those Friday evenings when everything in the apartment felt too still, too deliberate. The living room lamp threw a warm pool of light across the table, glinting off her half-finished cup of green tea. She'd left it steaming beside her work laptop, the cursor still blinking in an unsent email. Running late again? She'd texted at 6:47. Don't wait up. I stared at that message longer than I should have. Lena had always been precise. She lived her life in color-coded calendars and reusable containers labeled with masking tape. She worked in digital marketing, project manager for a boutique firm in downtown Minneapolis, and she thrived on structure. So when she'd started working late twice a week, I tried to trust it. I told myself it was a campaign launch, that client deadlines were brutal in Q4. But something had shifted in the way she said it. The first time, she'd sent a smiley face. The second time, she didn't. By the fourth, her tone had turned brittle, almost rushed, and tonight, when she left, she didn't even kiss me goodbye. We'd been married 7 years, together for 9. Our apartment overlooked the Mississippi, the kind of view people post on real estate blogs. Brick walls, exposed beams, a tiny balcony where we'd drink coffee on Sundays. I was 35, working as a systems analyst for a healthcare company. Stable, boring, dependable, that was me. And for the longest time, Lena said that's what she loved about me, that I was her calm in a world that never slowed down. But calm can feel like silence when someone stops meeting you halfway. By 8:30, I'd finished reheating leftover lasagna and washed the single plate I'd used. The quiet pressed harder against my ears. I glanced at her AirPods case again. It was open, both earbuds missing, the small green LED pulsing every few seconds. That's when the thought came. Small, absurd, uninvited. Find My. I'd used it once before, months ago, when she left her phone in an Uber. The app still had her devices sync through our shared account. We'd never bothered to unlink after upgrading our phones. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the icon on my screen. I wasn't trying to be the jealous husband. I hated the idea of snooping. But something in the pit of my stomach twisted. Something primal, quiet, undeniable. I tapped it. Her AirPods pinged to life on the map. Not at her office, not even close. The blinking dot was 5 miles west, near Uptown, an apartment complex I didn't recognize. I zoomed in. The street name popped up like a slow exhale. Bryant Avenue South. I stared at the map for a full minute, waiting for logic to catch up. Maybe it was a client's place. Maybe a friend. Maybe she left them in her car, and someone drove it to a friend's building. There had to be a reason. There's always a reason. But the longer I stared, the more that green dot pulsed like a heartbeat. I grabbed my jacket. The November air hit me as soon as I stepped outside. Dry, sharp, biting at my lungs. Downtown traffic had thinned. The kind of quiet hum that made the city feel half asleep. I drove without music, headlights cutting through the cold. Every red light stretched too long. Every turn felt like a dare I didn't want to take. By the time I reached Bryant Avenue, my pulse had found a rhythm that wasn't mine. The building was newer, one of those steel and glass complexes with a cafe on the corner and overpriced parking. The windows glowed with soft amber light. From the street, I could see silhouettes, couples moving past curtains, the flicker of a TV screen, the normal intimacy of other people's lives. Her dot was steady on the 3rd floor. Apartment 3B. I parked across the street and killed the engine. My hands rested on the steering wheel longer than they should have. What was I doing? Driving here like some detective from a bad movie? But I couldn't unsee the dot. I waited 10 minutes, then 15. My phone screen dimmed and I tapped it awake again. Still there. I told myself I'd just confirm. See her car. Maybe she'd met a coworker to carpool. Or maybe, God, I was grasping. I got out. My shoes hit the pavement with a hollow crunch. The building entrance was glass and steel, a keypad on the wall. I hovered, watching a couple exit with takeout bags, their laughter echoing against the concrete. I caught the door before it closed. The lobby smelled like detergent and faint perfume. A security camera blinked red near the ceiling. I kept walking, pretending to scroll through my phone. Elevator or stairs? Stairs felt less exposed. The third-floor hallway was quiet except for the hum of an air vent. The walls were sterile white, trimmed with brushed aluminum. And then, voices. A woman's laugh. Hers. It came from behind a partially open door halfway down the hall. Apartment 3B. I froze. Her laugh had always had this little hitch at the end, like she tried to hold it back. I'd know it anywhere. Another voice followed. A man's. Lower. Smooth. Then a shuffle. Footsteps. And the sound of something clinking. Wine glasses, maybe. I stood there, heart punching through my ribs, the hallway suddenly too narrow. Part of me wanted to turn around. Pretend I never came. Just walk out and figure out the truth later, in daylight, when it would hurt less. But then I thought about the way she'd kissed me 2 nights ago. Barely. Distracted, like an afterthought. The way she'd pulled her phone closer when I walked past. The way her perfume lingered on coats she didn't wear to work. I moved closer. The door wasn't latched fully. The lock was misaligned, leaving a sliver of space wide enough for sound. I leaned slightly, pulse roaring in my ears. Her voice again, softer, now. "You're going to get me in trouble," he chuckled. "You already said you were working late. What's 1 more hour?" Something inside me snapped and stayed silent all at once. I didn't remember deciding to move, but suddenly I was standing right outside, my reflection fractured in the brass door plate. My breath fogged the surface. I didn't knock. I didn't announce myself. I just listened. There was a pause, then a low rustle, fabric against fabric, and that awful, unmistakable sound of 2 people too close. My chest felt hollow. I stepped back, my vision tunneling. The hallway lights hummed above me. I thought of the ring on her finger, the way she twisted it when she lied. I thought of our wedding vows, the dog we'd planned to adopt after the holidays, the savings account labeled future. And I thought of how small I suddenly felt standing in that corridor, like the world had tilted and decided I didn't belong in it anymore. I left before I could think. The night air hit like a slap. Down the block, a liquor store's neon sign buzzed faintly. I stopped there, grabbed a 6-pack without reading the label, and drove home. Every stoplight blurred. I parked crooked in the garage, left the engine running for a few seconds too long before cutting it. Inside, the apartment still smelled like her tea. The mug had cooled, leaving a pale ring on the table. I sank into the couch, phone still in hand. Her dot hadn't moved. For the first time in my life, I wished I'd never learned how to find anything. It was close to midnight when she came home. I heard the elevator doors slide open down the hall, the shuffle of her boots, the soft jingle of her keys. I stayed still. When the lock clicked, I didn't move. She stepped inside, brushing snow off her coat. "Hey," she said, too casually. "You're still up?" "Yeah," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. "Long night?" She hesitated, just half a beat. "Yeah, client meeting ran over. You know how it is." "Right." I nodded, eyes on the AirPods case. "You left these." Her gaze flicked to them, too quick, too sharp. "Oh," she said, forcing a small laugh. "I didn't even notice. Thanks." I watched her plug them in, pretending nothing was wrong. Her hands trembled slightly when she reached for the charger. And for a brief, terrifying second, I almost said it. I almost told her I'd followed the signal, that I'd heard everything, that I knew. But the words stuck, because once they came out, there'd be no going back. So instead, I said nothing. She showered. I listened to the water run, the faint thud of shampoo bottles. When she came out, her hair damp and loose around her shoulders, she didn't meet my eyes. She slid into bed facing the wall. I waited, breathing in the silence. After a while, I whispered, "Love you." She didn't answer. The clock ticked past 1:20. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of a life that had just split open without a sound. The next morning, she was gone before sunrise. Left a note on the counter. Breakfast muffins in the fridge. Meeting at 8. Back late. I held the note between my fingers, the paper still warm from her touch. Then I turned on my laptop, opened the Find My app again, and stared at that green dot, knowing it wasn't done moving yet. The next day moved in fragments, like the hours were breaking apart before they even began. I went through the motions, coffee, shower, buttoning the same blue shirt I'd worn on our last vacation, but everything felt wrong against my skin. The morning light didn't look like it used to. It had that pale, distant kind of glow that makes even familiar walls look unfamiliar. Lena texted around 9. "Morning, babe. Hope you got some sleep. Don't forget the groceries later." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard. The casualness of it stung more than any argument could have. I typed, "Sure," then deleted it. Typed, "Okay," deleted that too. Finally sent nothing. I let the message sit there, marked as read, unanswered. That silence between us felt heavier than anything I could have written. At work, my focus was shot. Every email I read blurred halfway through. My team lead, Brett, noticed. He was one of those guys who believed in emotional transparency because he'd once read a leadership blog about it. "You good, man?" he asked near noon, leaning over the partition. "Yeah," I said, too fast. "Just tired." He nodded, but not convincingly. "You want to take a personal day or something?" "No, I'm fine." Fine. That useless, universal word for everything's falling apart, but I'm still breathing. By the time I got home, the apartment was empty again. The scent of her perfume still hung faintly in the hallway, floral, expensive, something I'd bought her last Christmas. Her laptop bag was gone. Her charger, gone. Her AirPods case, too. The green light was off, but the silence it left behind was louder. I stood there, the weight of the key fob pressing into my palm, and felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not even heartbreak, just vacancy. I poured myself a drink, something dark. Didn't look at the label. Sat at the kitchen island and scrolled through photos of us. Backyard barbecue, lake cabin trip, the selfie from the night we signed the lease here. We'd looked happy then, like we'd made it, but I could see it now. The small distances even in our smiles, the way her hand rested near mine, but not quite on it. That night, the green dot appeared again. Same building, same apartment. I hadn't even been planning to check, but when I opened my phone, there it was, mocking me. I could have ignored it. I should have. But something about knowing made the lie unbearable. I grabbed my keys again. Bryant Avenue looked colder this time. The wind carried snow, not flakes yet, just fine dust swirling beneath the streetlights. I parked farther away, heart steady this time, not frantic like before. There's a strange calm that comes after betrayal. A clarity, almost mathematical. I wasn't there to cause a scene. I wasn't going to knock, shout, demand explanations. I just needed confirmation. A truth I could see with my own eyes, not one blinking on a screen. I walked around the building to the back alley, where the unit's balconies faced a narrow stretch of trees. Hers, 3B, had string lights. She'd always loved warm lights, said they made everything look softer. Through the curtain, I saw shapes. 2 figures moving, close. Then her, hair tied up, wearing his hoodie. She laughed at something, tilting her head the way she used to when I'd tell her stupid jokes while we cooked. Except now she wasn't laughing at me. I couldn't breathe. I took a step back and hit a trash bin. The noise startled me, and I ducked behind a parked car. The curtain fluttered, then fell still again. My hands were shaking. My body didn't know what to do with itself. I wanted to walk away, to leave her to whatever life she'd chosen. But I couldn't, because I wasn't ready to be erased. The next morning, I called her office, pretended to be confirming a client reschedule. "Lena's not in today," the receptionist said. "She took the morning off." I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the phone. Working late, morning off. It all lined up too neatly now. By noon, I decided I wouldn't confront her yet. I'd wait, collect myself, figure out how deep this ran. But waiting turned into watching. I tracked the AirPods 3 more times that week. Tuesday night, same address. Thursday, again. Saturday morning, briefly, then gone. Patterns. Every time she said she was working late, the dot moved west. The hardest part wasn't seeing it. It was pretending not to. Because when you know someone's lying, every conversation becomes theater. Sunday, she sat beside me on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "You're quiet lately," she said. "Just tired," I replied. She nodded, not really looking. "We should plan something. Maybe a weekend trip after this project wraps up." "Sure." She smiled faintly. "You okay with that?" "Yeah," I said. "Where were you thinking?" She shrugged. "Somewhere warm, somewhere without Wi-Fi." That irony almost made me laugh. Later that night, I stared at her sleeping form, the rise and fall of her back, the rhythm of her breath, and felt like I was watching a stranger. I thought about leaving right then, packing a bag, finding a motel, disappearing until I could think straight, but I stayed. Because there's a difference between leaving and being done. And I wasn't done yet. Monday, I told Brett I needed to work remote. "Plumbing issue, Fal," I said. He didn't question it. I set up my laptop at the dining table, but I barely touched a single spreadsheet. At 6:15, she came home, dropped her bag, kissed my cheek mechanically. "Late night again," she said. "Client emergency." I nodded. "Need a ride?" She waved it off. "No, I'll grab an Uber. Love you." She said it so easily that it felt rehearsed. I watched her walk out the door. The elevator dinged. Silence again. 5 minutes later, her AirPods pinged to life on my screen. Bryant Avenue, 3rd floor, 3B. This time I didn't drive. I called my friend Nate. He'd been my college roommate, the kind of guy who thrived on blunt honesty. He'd seen me through worse. Job layoffs, my dad's funeral, the year Lena and I nearly split over finances. "Man," he said after I explained everything. "That's brutal." "Yeah." "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." "You sure about what you saw?" "Positive." There was a pause. "Then don't confront her until you're ready to walk away. Otherwise, she'll twist it." I didn't answer. He sighed. "You want me to come over?" "No, I just needed to say it out loud." "Then say it. She's cheating on me." The silence after that sentence felt like a door closing. I didn't sleep much that night. Every sound, the elevator, a neighbor's dog, the heater, sounded like her keys in the door. At 2 a.m., she finally came home. Quietly. She tiptoed into the bedroom, thinking I was asleep. I lay there, eyes half open, watching her undress in the dim light. She moved carefully, almost guilty. When she slipped under the covers, her skin smelled faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. That was the first time I cried without moving a muscle. The next few days blurred together. I started saving screenshots of the location history, not because I planned to use them for anything yet, but because part of me needed proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that something real had happened in the middle of all this gaslighted quiet. I labeled them by date. Nov 12, Bryant Ave. Nov 14, Bryant Ave. A private archive of betrayal. Thursday afternoon, she texted again. Can you pick up flowers? Mom's coming over this weekend. Her mom, Carol, adored me. Old school, church-going woman who once told Lena, "You found a good one. Don't mess it up." And somehow, that thought, Carol smiling at me across the dinner table while her daughter lied, hurt almost as much as the affair itself. Still, I picked up the flowers. I set the table. I played my role. When Carol came over Saturday, she brought cinnamon bread and talked about holiday plans. Lena laughed easily, like she didn't have two lives running in parallel. At one point, Carol reached across and touched my hand. You take such good care of her, she said warmly. I forced a smile. I try. Inside, the words felt like gravel. After Carol left, Lena stretched on the couch, scrolling through her phone again. You're quiet tonight, she said, echoing herself. Just thinking. About what? Trust. She looked up, brow furrowing slightly. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said. Just in general. She studied me for a second longer, then shrugged. You overthink everything, Mark. Maybe I did, but not this time. That night, I watched her fall asleep again. The clock read 11:23. Her phone rested face down on the nightstand. The AirPods case glowed faintly, charging. I thought about opening the Find My app again, about watching the dot move when she left. But something stopped me, because now I didn't need the map to tell me where she was going. I already knew. Sunday morning, while she showered, I checked her purse. Not for messages, just for the apartment key. There it was, a small silver key on a leather tag I didn't recognize. I slipped it out, pressed it between my fingers, memorizing its ridges. When she came out, towel around her hair, I smiled like nothing had changed. Because I had a plan now. Not revenge, not confrontation, just truth. And truth, when you wait long enough, eventually finds its own way out. That night, she packed her laptop bag again. Late again? I asked. She nodded. Deadline week. Need your AirPods? She smiled faintly. Already got them. I kissed her cheek. She didn't meet my eyes. After she left, I took out my phone and stared at the map. When the dot stopped at Bryant Avenue, I grabbed my jacket, again, but this time with purpose, because I had that key in my pocket. I parked 2 blocks away, walked through the alley. The same string lights glowed faintly through the curtains. I climbed the stairs quietly, every step deliberate. At 3B, I paused. The hallway smelled like detergent again. My pulse thudded. I slid the key into the lock. It fit. For a second, I couldn't move, just stood there, fingers frozen on cold metal. Then I turned it, and the door opened. The door didn't creak. It just eased open like it had been waiting for me. The first thing that hit me wasn't a sound or a face. It was the smell. Warm, buttery, faintly floral. The kind of scent that didn't belong in a bachelor's apartment. It was hers, Lena's perfume. The same one I'd bought last Christmas after she'd said, half laughing, It smells like confidence. Inside, the lights were low. A soft amber glow spilled from the kitchen, one of those cheap LED strips that college kids use to make everything look cinematic. A jacket lay draped across a chair, men's size, navy corduroy. Her purse sat on the counter, unzipped, her keys tossed next to it. My heart didn't race. It didn't have to. It just sank. I stepped inside. The carpet muffled my steps. I could hear a faint hum from another room, maybe a TV or music from someone's phone. The apartment was small, maybe 700 square feet. Open kitchen, narrow hallway, a closed door at the end. That's where the sound was coming from. I stood there for a moment, hand on the wall, my body deciding whether it wanted to move or collapse. I could still leave. Pretend I'd never been here. Walk away with my dignity intact, even if the truth followed behind me like a shadow. But I didn't leave, because part of me needed to see. I walked down the hall. Every step felt heavier, like the air thickened the closer I got. The door was slightly ajar, maybe an inch, enough for light to leak through. I pushed it gently, and there she was, Lena, sitting cross-legged on the bed in a gray hoodie that wasn't hers, a glass of wine balanced on her knee. Her hair was up in a loose bun, strands falling out. She was laughing at something on the TV. Beside her sat a man, dark hair, scruffy jawline, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. Maybe 30, maybe younger. He leaned in close to say something, and she leaned even closer to hear it. Then she noticed me. It was small at first. Her hand froze mid-gesture. Her smile didn't finish forming. Her eyes flicked to the doorway. The glass tipped slightly. "Mark?" she whispered. The man turned. Confusion first, then recognition. The kind of instinctive tightening of the jaw when someone realizes what's happening before they can stop it. Lena stood too quickly. What are you doing here?" I didn't move. "You left your AirPods connected to my account." Her face went white. "Wait," the guy said, stepping forward. "Who the hell are you?" I looked at him. "Her husband." He froze, one foot half lifted like he'd stepped into a crime scene. Lena's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "Mark, this isn't—" "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't lie again." Her voice trembled. "It's not what it looks like." That line, that stupid, recycled line from every bad movie ever made. The guy's expression changed. Guilt mixing with self-defense. "He shouldn't be here, Lena." I ignored him. "How long?" "Mark, how long?" Her eyes darted to the floor. "A few months." Something inside me went still. Not shattered, just stilled, like a clock that finally ran out of batteries. I nodded once. "Okay." The silence that followed was unbearable. The TV kept playing some sitcom laugh track in the background, cruelly out of sync with the room's air. Lena took a step forward. "Mark, please, I wanted to tell you. I just wanted to keep both worlds until one got boring." She winced. No, it wasn't like that. The guy spoke up again, quieter this time. "You need to leave, man." I turned toward him, finally seeing him clearly. Taller than me, early 30s, confident in that easy, careless way people get when they've never had to live with consequences. "Do you love her?" I asked. He blinked. "What? Do you love her, or is this just convenient?" He hesitated, and that pause told me everything. Lena's shoulders shook. "Mark, please stop." I almost laughed. "You stopped being honest months ago, Lena. You don't get to ask me for silence now." Her eyes filled, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or fear. Maybe both. I backed away from the doorway. My voice came out steady. Too steady. "You don't have to explain anymore. I get it." She reached for me. Mark. I stepped out into the hallway before she could touch me. The air outside hit like a plunge into ice water. I didn't look back as I descended the stairs, my hand brushing the cold metal railing. The sound of the city at night filled the space between my thoughts. Distant traffic, the low hum of streetlights, the clatter of someone dropping a bottle in a recycling bin. I sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel. My fingers left faint marks on the leather. 7 years. Gone in one night of fluorescent light and stupid LED glow. I turned the key, but the engine didn't start right away. It coughed, sputtered. Somewhere between the second and third attempt, I started laughing. The kind of laugh that sounds more like a cough, because all I could think about was how careful she'd been with everything else. Passwords, calendars, work calls. And yet she'd left her AirPods on the counter that one night. The smallest mistake, and the whole truth unraveled. When I got home, I didn't turn the lights on, just sat in the dark, letting the outlines of our life blur. The framed photos on the wall looked like strangers' memories. I poured another drink, but this one went untouched. My phone buzzed around midnight. Lena, I'm sorry. Please come back. We need to talk. Then another. Please don't do anything stupid. Stupid? Like what? Feel something? I powered off the phone. The next morning, sunlight cut through the blinds, turning the dust in the air into slow-moving galaxies. My head throbbed. My throat felt raw. Her side of the bed was still dented, pillow faintly smelling like her shampoo. I wanted to throw it out, but I didn't. Not yet. I opened my laptop. My email was full of work reminders, meetings, deadlines, the noise of normal life pretending to matter. Then another message came in. Subject, we need to talk. From Lena. I didn't open it. I deleted it without reading. Then I opened the Find My app one last time. The AirPods had moved. Downtown. Her office. Back to pretending, I guess. For 2 days we didn't speak. Then on Wednesday, she showed up at the apartment. I heard her before I saw her. The quick click of her heels, the rattle of her keys. Mark, she called softly, stepping inside. We can't leave it like this. I stayed seated at the table. She stopped when she saw me. You're not even going to say anything? What do you want me to say? That you'll at least listen? I've listened for months, I said quietly. You just never heard me. Her eyes flashed with something. Anger or desperation. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. No one ever plans betrayal, Lena. They just let it happen enough times that it becomes normal. She took a deep breath. It's over. With him. Congratulations. Mark, please. She sat down across from me. I messed up, but I love you. That word, love, felt like an insult in her mouth. You love me? I asked. When? During your Thursday nights? During those mornings you took off work? She blinked hard. I made a mistake. Which part was the mistake? The first lie or the last? Her voice broke. You don't understand. You're right, I said, standing. I don't understand how someone builds a whole life with you and still looks for warmth somewhere else. She covered her face with her hands. I'm sorry. I know. I walked to the door. My hand rested on the knob. You should go. Mark, please. Not tonight. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Can I at least get my stuff later? Yeah, I said. I'll leave it by the door. Her eyes searched my face for something. Forgiveness, maybe? Or familiarity? She didn't find either. When she finally left, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. That weekend, I boxed her things. Folded clothes, framed photos, the little ceramic mug she'd bought on our honeymoon. Every item was a memory, but none of them felt alive anymore. When I found the small jewelry box in the drawer, the one that used to hold her engagement ring when she wasn't wearing it, I noticed it was empty. I smiled bitterly. Of course. Maybe she'd left it at 3B. Maybe she'd sold it. Either way, it didn't matter now. Sunday night, Nate dropped by with a case of beer and the kind of look that says, no small talk. "You holding up?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "I guess." He sat down. "You're quieter than usual." "Not much left to say." He nodded. "You gonna tell her mom?" I shook my head. "No point. That's her mess to explain." He cracked open a beer. "You planning to move?" "Maybe. Just not tonight." We sat there, the two of us, watching the city lights flicker through the window. After a while, Nate said, "You know, you handled it better than most would." "I didn't handle it," I said. "I just stopped pretending." Later, after he left, I checked the app one last time out of habit. Her AirPods were offline now. No location, no green dot. It was like she'd disappeared completely. I stared at the blank screen, and for the first time in weeks, it didn't feel like a loss. It felt like silence, the kind that lets you start. Over. But life isn't neat. It doesn't let you leave clean footprints. Because 3 days later, she texted again. "Please meet me. I need to show you something." I should have ignored it, but I didn't. Because deep down, even after the truth, some part of me still needed answers. The text came at 7:43 on a Wednesday night. Not long enough after the silence for it to feel safe. Long enough for me to have convinced myself I was finally done checking my phone for her name. "Please meet me. I need to show you something." No punctuation mistake. Just that period at the end. Neat, final, rehearsed. Lena always wrote like she was scared of leaving loose ends. I stared at the screen for a good minute, then locked it. Unlocked it again. Read the message a second time, as if it might mean something else if I caught it mid-blink. Then a second one came through. "It's not about us. It's about what you think you saw." What I think I saw. That line hit like a cold slap. I didn't answer right away. I poured coffee I didn't need, stood by the window, watched the city move on without me. Outside, the streets glowed with leftover snowmelt, reflections of traffic lights smeared into red and green watercolor. She wanted to meet at Loring Park, near the little frozen pond where we used to walk our friend's dog before we could afford one ourselves. 8:30. I could have said no. Should have. But curiosity is a cruel kind of gravity. The park looked half asleep when I got there. Lamps haloed in mist, a few joggers with breath clouds hanging in the air. The benches were slick with frost. Lena was already waiting. Hood up, gloved hands jammed into her coat pockets, standing near the railing where the pond curved around. When she turned and saw me, something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, or relief. "Thanks for coming," she said quietly. "I almost didn't." "I know." She looked down, rubbing her hands together. There's something you don't understand about that night." I understood enough. "Mark," her voice cracked slightly, "it wasn't just an affair." That phrasing, "not just," made my stomach tighten. "Then what was it?" She hesitated. "Do you remember Alex from work? Your new project lead? The one who—" She nodded. "That's him, 3B. Yeah, I figured that out." Her breath came out in a visible puff. "He wasn't my boyfriend. Not really. It started as, I don't even know. He offered to help me with something." "Help you lie?" She shook her head. "Help me get away from it." I frowned. "Get away from what?" She looked around before lowering her voice. "My boss, Carl. He's been making things hard for me for months. Messages, comments, late-night calls." I tried to report it, but HR swept it under the rug. Alex was one of the few people who believed me. He said if I needed a place to talk, to breathe, I could come by. I shouldn't have gone so many times, but you did, I finished. Her jaw tensed. Yes, and I shouldn't have let it look the way it did. I know how it must have felt seeing that, but I wasn't sleeping with him. I didn't answer. Mark, I swear, you have to believe me. I wanted to laugh, because belief doesn't grow back once it's torn out by the roots. Still, something about the way her voice trembled didn't sound rehearsed. Why didn't you just tell me? I asked. Because I didn't want you to see me as a victim, she said. I thought I could handle it quietly. Then everything spiraled. I exhaled slowly. The wind carried her perfume, faint, distant. And the hoodie, the wine, the lights. She swallowed. We were going over emails that night. He poured a drink. I stayed too long, that's all. I stared at her for a long time. Do you love him? No. Her answer came too fast, too sharp. God, no. I love you. I just messed up the way I tried to fix things. We stood there, the silence of winter between us. A car passed somewhere behind, headlights washing over the frozen pond. What do you want from me, Lena? Her voice softened. Just a chance to explain everything. I can show you the messages, the ones from Carl. They're awful. I've been terrified he'd ruin my job if I said anything. I folded my arms. You could have trusted me. I know. Her eyes glistened. But after last year, after the savings fight, I didn't want to bring another mess home. I thought you'd just tell me to quit. And we can't afford that right now. That landed heavier than she probably meant it to, because money had always been our quiet tension. Her student loans, my cautious spreadsheets, the house we almost bought but couldn't. I rubbed a hand over my face. You're saying I got it wrong? I'm saying you saw the truth, just not the whole of it. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone, scrolled through a chain of texts, and there it was, a series of messages from someone labeled Carl H. all caps, midnight timestamps, unanswered lines. You owe me for that promotion. Don't pretend you didn't know what this dinner meant. You tell anyone, you're done here. I read in silence. My stomach knotted. Jesus, I whispered. I blocked him eventually, but he started showing up near my parking garage. That's when Alex stepped in. So you went to his apartment? I was scared. She exhaled. I should have told you, but I didn't want to make it real. We stood there until our fingers went numb. Finally, I said, You need to report him again, with evidence this time. I know. I'll go with you. She looked up sharply. You'd do that? I'm not doing it for you, I said quietly. I'm doing it because if any of this is true, he doesn't get to walk away clean. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We went to HR the next morning. Her hands shook as she laid out the screenshots, the call logs, the late-night meeting invites. The woman across the desk kept a neutral smile, typing notes like she was writing the weather report. When it was done, Lena looked exhausted, like she'd finally dropped a weight she'd been carrying too long. Outside, she said softly, I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not sure forgiveness is the point right now. What is then? Clarity. That night, she didn't come home. Not to 3B, that much I checked once, out of reflex. Her AirPods stayed dark. Instead, she texted, I'm staying with my mom tonight. Need to breathe. Thank you for helping me. I typed, okay, then deleted it, because helping someone doesn't mean you trust them again. Days turned into a quiet routine. Work, microwave dinners, silence. Then Friday evening, a call came. Unknown number. Mr. Wilson, a voice said, this is Detective Alvarez with the Minneapolis Police Department. Your wife mentioned you might corroborate her complaint? For a moment, I couldn't speak. Complaint? She came in earlier today, brought evidence of workplace harassment. We're following up. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Of course. Whatever you need. He thanked me, said they'd be in touch. When I hung up, I stared at the phone, realizing that this story, our story, had just shifted again. Because now there was proof, and proof changes everything. 2 days later, Lena called. Her voice steadier, lighter. They suspended him pending investigation. HR finally took it seriously. That's good, I said. I wanted you to know, and to say thank you. You already did. She hesitated. Can I come by, just to pick up my stuff? I looked around the apartment, the boxes stacked neatly by the door, labeled in my handwriting. Yeah, I said, tomorrow. When she arrived, she looked different, tired but somehow relieved, like she'd been holding her breath for months. Hey, she said softly. Hey. We stood in the doorway like two people who used to share everything but now shared only air. She glanced at the boxes. You packed everything? Didn't know when you'd want them. Thanks. She bent to lift one, then paused. I don't want it to end like this. Then how should it end? She swallowed, with honesty. I nodded slowly. Then start there. Was I wrong? Completely wrong? Her eyes wavered. Not completely. There it was, the crack in the news story. Meaning? I asked. She bit her lip. Alex and I, it wasn't an affair at first, but one night, after all the tension, after everything with work, I broke. It happened. Once. Just once. I hated myself for it, and then you showed up. I closed my eyes. So the night I came, she nodded, tears rising again. Yeah. That single word felt like the floor falling away beneath me. She reached out. Mark, I'm so sorry. I wish I could undo it. I stepped back. You got your closure. Now I need mine. She wiped her face. I'll go. She lifted the boxes, one by one, and walked out without another word. When the door closed, I exhaled the kind of breath that doesn't refill. The apartment felt cavernous that night, too quiet, too clean. I sat on the floor surrounded by the spaces her things used to occupy. For a long time, I just listened to the refrigerator hum and the radiator pop. Then I opened my laptop. Find My was still open in another tab. Her devices were gone now, unlinked, removed. For the first time since all this started, the map was empty. But stories don't really end where they should. Because a week later, a plain envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. No note, just the drive. I hesitated before plugging it in. On it were video files, 6 short clips, grainy security footage from an office parking garage. In each one, the same man, Carl, waiting near a black sedan, watching Lena leave work. The timestamp, 2 months ago. I sat there, cold creeping up my spine. Who had sent this? And why now? I watched all 6 clips in silence. Each one ran for maybe 30 seconds. A small square of grainy footage showing a dim parking garage, concrete pillars, the harsh strobe of motion-triggered lights. Lena would appear near the end of the frame, her purse slung across her shoulder, sometimes glancing behind her, and every time he was there. Carl. Leaning against a black sedan, pretending to check his phone, then following her partway before stopping. The footage didn't need audio to be loud. It said everything I hadn't wanted to believe, that she'd been scared, cornered, manipulated long before she'd run to anyone else. But what unsettled me wasn't just the stalking, it was the envelope. No return address, No handwriting, no note, just a clean white sleeve and that tiny drive like a silent accusation. Now you know everything. But how had it reached me? The police? HR? Alex? Someone wanted me to see it. Not her, not them, me. I didn't call her that night. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, the soft hum of the refrigerator filling the room, the laptop screen still frozen on the last frame. Lena stepping quickly toward her car, keys clutched like a weapon. I could have called Detective Alvarez, but part of me wanted to hear her voice first, to ask why she hadn't told me it was that bad. By midnight, I was still staring at the footage, fingers trembling around a cold mug of coffee. Morning came gray and cold. My phone buzzed with an unknown number again. Mr. Wilson? It was Alvarez. I just wanted to confirm you received a copy of the parking garage footage? My stomach tightened. You sent that? He hesitated. We didn't. We obtained similar footage last week, but it's under evidence hold. Someone must have mailed you a duplicate, possibly the same anonymous source who tipped us off. Anonymous? Yes. The envelope came from a public mailbox downtown. We're tracing it. Do you know who it might be? We're still looking. For what it's worth, your wife's complaint is being escalated. The footage helps. He thanked me for cooperating, reminded me not to distribute it. When the call ended, I just sat there, feeling like my life had become a case file in someone else's hands. By afternoon, Lena called. Did you get the envelope? She asked softly. So it wasn't you? No, she said quickly, but Alex said he'd been trying to find a way to prove what Carl was doing. Maybe it was him. Without telling you? I don't know. He was scared too. Carl's been threatening both of us. Threatening how? Emails. I think he knows about you confronting me that night. He sent something. She paused. What? She swallowed. He sent a photo of you, standing outside the building. Said if I didn't withdraw the complaint, he'd tell everyone I was having an affair and that you were stalking me. My blood ran cold. He's watching you? I think so. That night I changed my locks. I checked the peephole twice before going to bed. Every creak in the hallway sounded like footsteps. The next morning, I met Alvarez in person. He was younger than I expected, with kind eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. Your wife's situation isn't unusual, he said. Harassment often turns into retaliation once it's reported. We've assigned her temporary protection detail. She didn't tell me that. She probably didn't want you to worry. He slid a card across the table. If you see anything strange, call immediately. Like what? Cars parked too long near your place. Unknown numbers. Anything that feels off. Everything already felt off. That evening, I got a text from Lena. Can we meet? It's important. I hesitated, then agreed. We met at a small diner near the highway, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and a jukebox that hadn't worked since the 90s. She wore a gray sweater, no makeup, eyes ringed with fatigue. I don't know who to trust anymore, she said. HR's been silent since the suspension. Alex says he's leaving the firm. And Carl, he's still out there somewhere. You shouldn't be alone, I said. I'm not. Mom's with me, but I can't stop looking over my shoulder. She took a sip of coffee, hands trembling. I keep thinking about the night you showed up. How you must have seen me and thought the worst. I did, I admitted. Her lip quivered. And I made it easy to think that, because part of me wanted to feel safe somewhere, even if it was in the wrong place. We sat there quietly, the waitress refilling our cups without asking questions. Finally, Lena reached across the table. I know I can't fix everything, but if there's any part of you that still believes I'm more than my mistakes... Her voice trailed off. I looked at her hand. I didn't take it. I believe you were scared, I said, And I believe you didn't trust me enough to tell me. Both things can be true. She nodded slowly. Then maybe that's a start. The weeks that followed felt like cautious normalcy. We texted sometimes. Practical things, updates on the investigation, rent, the lawyer. No declarations, no late-night nostalgia. Then, one afternoon, Alvarez called again. "We got him," he said simply. "Carl tried contacting your wife again through a fake email account. It traced it back. He's being charged with harassment and unlawful surveillance." Surveillance? He planted a small tracker under her car. We recovered it this morning. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. All those late nights she'd said she felt watched. She really was. Lena called later that evening. Her voice shook between relief and disbelief. "They arrested him, Mark. He's actually gone." "That's good. I wanted you to be the first to know." "You should be proud," I said. "You did the right thing." She was quiet for a while. "Do you think we'll ever be okay again?" I didn't answer right away. The truth was, I didn't know. "Maybe okay isn't what we should chase," I said finally. "Maybe honest is enough." A month later, the case made local headlines. A brief article buried between weather reports and sports scores. Marketing executive arrested for workplace harassment and surveillance of employee. No names, no faces, but anyone who knew us would recognize the outline. Lena quit her job, started freelance work from her mom's place. We still spoke occasionally, short calls, quiet apologies scattered through ordinary conversations. One night, she asked if I'd ever consider seeing her again. I told her the truth. "I still love the person you were. I just don't know who you are now." She didn't argue. "That's fair," she said softly. "I hope someday I earn a different answer." Spring came late that year. Snow lingered stubbornly on rooftops, refusing to melt. One morning I found the AirPods case, that case, buried in the back of a drawer. The green light still blinked faintly when I flipped it open. For a moment I thought about turning them on, checking one last time where she was. But I didn't. Because sometimes the only way to heal is to stop tracking what's already lost. I walked to the balcony, set the case on the railing, and watched the sunrise catch on its surface. One last flash of reflected light before I let it fall into the river below. The splash was quiet, almost polite. Then the water smoothed over, as if it had never been there. That night, Lena sent one final message. "Thank you for believing me, even when it hurt to." I typed back, "Take care of yourself." No punctuation, no closure. Just two people acknowledging the wreckage between them. And somehow, that felt enough. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.